Hello world, this is Lisa Friedrichsen, your friend and computer science professor with another short screencast from javascript.info, the modern JavaScript tutorial. We are down to section 5.3, strings. From 5.1, we know that even primitives have access to properties and methods. They don't have properties and methods themselves, they're primitives, but when we call a property or a method on a primitive, JavaScript behind the scenes wraps that primitive with an object of the type of data it is that gives us access to many properties and methods. And we're going to learn many of the properties and methods that are applied to strings in this tutorial. First of all, let's just talk about strings and how we can create them. And I am again going to just use the console instead of a web page in Visual Studio to demonstrate this. There are three different ways to create a string with single quotes, double quotes, and backticks. Now, backticks are a hard key to find on the keyboard sometimes, but they have a wonderful benefit in that we can embed expressions directly into the string. So I'm just going to copy his first example here and pop it into the console, and then we'll unpack it. As soon as I press enter, this alert statement is running, and the alert dialog box is right here, 1 plus 2 equals 3. Let's see how that was created. Well, I know the alert method. It's a method of the window object. I don't have to type window dot. Window is assumed if there's no object dot before the method. Then the backtick 1 plus 2 equals, that's the literal string. That's the part that would come in the quotation marks. And now here's the expression. The expression starts with a $sign and then has curly braces, yet another use for curly braces. We can add that to our syntax list. Then the sum function, which is defined up here with 1 and 2 as the parameters. And when we pass the sum function 1 and 2 as a and b, or returned whatever the addition of a plus b is, which is 3. This whole part between the $sign, the curly brace, and the last curly brace becomes the number 3. Let's remove the comments, remove the function. Now that I've got the function in my console here, I can use it again and also remove the alert and see what that returns in the console. And it's just a little bit cleaner. We don't have to use the alert. We can see the string lining up perfectly, and we can see that that $sign through the curly braces became 3 and the period. So anytime you want to use a function or a variable name in your string, these backticks are great, and they're part of the latest version of JavaScript. He goes on to say that backticks offer other benefits. For example, you can have a string that spans multiple lines just for readability. And I'll copy this into the console and see how this works. This list, guests, then John, Pete, and Mary in separate lines are preserved when we use backticks. We could not do that with quotation marks or apostrophes. Another very important part of this tutorial are the special characters, sometimes called escape characters, and there's a list for them. Certainly /n is one of the most common, which creates a new line. So let's copy this statement into our console and see how it works. And now if I just type in str1, see what that variable contains, then it's hello, and then a new line and world. So this is a nice little list of special characters. Notice that they all start with the backslash. And so if you see a backslash in a string, you know that the next character is a special character, such as an apostrophe or a backslash itself, or a quotation mark, or a new line. Now we've already seen the length property. If I want to know the length of a string, I can use its length property. Again, it's a primitive, but that length property comes from the string object wrapper that is automatically invoked behind the scenes when I call a property or a method on a primitive. And then the tutorial starts getting into the different methods that are commonly used at strings. The character @ if I type in str1.character @ position 0, it's going to return capital H because strings, just like arrays, are indexed using 0 as the first position. So in hello world, H is in the first position, which is position 0. Another part of the lesson talks about strings being immutable, meaning you cannot change individual letters in a string. However, you can assign the entire string to a different value. So the entire string is not immutable, but an individual letter in a string is immutable. Changing the case to uppercase to lowercase, I can take str1 and to lowercase. That's a common method. Again, however, str1 is still the original string unless you say str1, now you're assigned to str1.toLowerCase. case. So you don't really change your string unless you assign it to a new value. Now str1 is all lowercase Lisa. Searching for a substring, the indexOf property used often if we want to figure out if there is a character or a set of characters in a string, we can use the indexOf property. So str1 indexOf SA is at position 2 because remember str1 is Lisa, so L is 0, I is 1, S is 2. Once you understand the indexOf method that returns a number, then the includes, startsWith, and endsWith methods also make sense. They just return a true or false. Does the string include, start with, or end with the given argument value? Getting a substring amounts to returning a piece of the string. Let's assign str1 to my full name, and then let's slice it, str1.slice. If I just wanted my first name, I would start at position 0 and just go for 4 characters. And here's a nice little table that recaps some of the most common methods to pull out pieces of a string. Slice, substring, and then substr, where you have a start value and then the second argument is a length value. There are some other great pieces of information in this tutorial. As usual, I'm just hitting the highlights and some of the things that I think you really want to be aware of in an introductory JavaScript class. Thank you.